I don't think it's supposed to do that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What's going on, guys? I'm Burrs. Today we're going to talk about the Ram 1500 project and exactly what I've done recently, what I've changed, what's been really awesome, and what is still kind of a little bit of a problem. So as you know, I swapped out the front end for a Zone Off-Road level kit. Now, if you want to go off-roading, you don't technically want to put a level kit on. And I have no problems with the Zone kit. I think it's great. Here's the problem. When you replace something in the front, you have that all apart with the struts. You should probably replace the struts if you have the ability to. I didn't do that. So what happened is, got the kit in, driving around, and what's going on at the front end? Boom, 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 boom.
Nice.
Just constantly bouncing around and not settling. So that was a problem. I'd be on the highway, I'd go over a bump, and the front of the truck would just never settle down. I felt like I was riding on a horse at some points. I said that's a problem and I want to replace it. So I bought some Eibach Pro level off-road struts for the front and springs for the front that would bring a 2-inch increase in the height. I took the level kit out. I want to go off-roading with it and I don't want to think about anything breaking. I'm going to go in there. I don't want to go back into the spring and strut assembly for a while. So I just bought the strut and then the spring from Eibach. Took these out and wow, what a difference when you have actual struts that work. Front does not bounce up and down anymore, obviously. That's the one thing I learned. So lesson learned is if you are going to go out and do anything in relation to lifting your truck with a level, or even springs, don't be an idiot like me and not replace your struts at the same time, especially if you have over like 40,000 miles, maybe even 30. Just replace them in general. You're going to get a better product than OEM. It's going to be made for the extra height. You know, mine's like 2 inches, not that big a deal, but still you're going to get a shock that's made for it. So I'd recommend you do that. I did that. Really happy with the way that it handles now in the front. Don't have any more. What I noticed is I don't have any more movement. I don't have as much movement when I'm going around corners and stuff. It's just stuck to the ground, which is awesome. In the rear, I have a constant vibration. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I just have this constant vibration, and every once in a while it'll get worse. So what I originally had was I had these pucks in the back that were with the original rear springs. So that was on the bottom. It's actually flipped upside down. So it was like this, and this was on the bottom. Gave it a 1-inch lift in the back. I thought to myself, well, the original stock spring being compressed down another inch is probably binding up the spring. It's making it loaded up, and that's what that vibration's from. So I went ahead and bought the Eibach rear lift, Pro lift off-road spring, and that was a 1-inch lift. Took the spacer out, that out, and just put the spring in. And I'm happy with how it handles. In the last video, it was a Zone Off-Road, what do I think, video. I'll link to it down below. I talked about the rear shocks possibly being the problem. So I replaced the rear shocks with some Fox shocks. They're from Zone. They're like Zone Off-Road's version of them because they're a parent company or sister company, whatever. So they're the steel body version of a Fox shock, so they're a little bit cheaper. So I went ahead and put those in the back. Immediately I could tell a difference with, you know, the Eibach in the front, the Fox in the back, with how fast it recovers from bumps and stuff. So you're going over bumps and, you know, hills and things and gullies and ditches, and you notice that it's locked into the ground. So you might have a little bit of compression and a bump like you normally would, but it comes right back to where it was really quickly. So the balance of the truck as far as the suspension goes is really good right now. I like that setup. Now to the one part that was really pain in my ass. That's the tires and the wheel combination. Is the tire and the wheel combination itself a problem? No. Where I took it originally, they put beads in. They said you want to do beads, you want to do static balancing. They explained the beads. I did a little bit of research on YouTube, and this is why, like, I hate going and watching YouTube videos. Those people don't even know what they're talking about. The funny thing is, I make YouTube videos, so it's kind of like a slant at myself. You know, I was like, you know what, it makes sense. When someone explains it to you and they say, hey, you put these beads in, centrifugal force, moving all the time. Yeah, when you come to a stop or you accelerate, maybe the beads don't bounce right away, but blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know what, I guess it makes sense. Maybe that's the way to go nowadays. Horrible decision. I'll never make it again.
I have never seen this before in my life. Watch this. Vince Wilfork is going to throw.
Went back to him. They were like, oh, it's because you had the big tires. And I was like, oh, you put the beads in. Why didn't you say that originally? We have problems with balancing big tires. So anyway, there's a problem there. They fixed it. I had to pay a little bit more money for them to fix it, which was just them putting a zillion weights all around these things, each wheel. Because what they did was, the company with the beads said not to put any more beads in. They said just to balance it like you normally would. So it looks like they threw it on the balancer a couple of times. They were chasing the balance, if that makes sense. And, you know, I got a bunch of weights on there. Initially, like the first day when I drove it out of the lot, it was perfect. Like it seemed to work. But then as I got to different speeds, I came to a stop and stuff, the beads are still in there moving around, right? So you still have an issue. I'm looking at my time here. I got plenty of time left. The beads are still constantly moving around and causing an imbalance in the wheel, depending on what you're doing. Are you on the highway? Are you going a different speed than what they balanced it at? Yeah, you're always going to have a little bit of vibration, but keeping those beads in there was a horrendous decision, and I'm really irritated by it. I might call the company up and tell them to give me my money back. We'll see. But anyway, took it to Mount Zion Off-Road. That's where they did everything. Put the springs in the back. I put the shocks on, the rear shocks. But they put the springs in the back. They put the struts and the new spring in the front. And they rebalanced everything statically. And they road forced it, which means they're going to see how much, I believe that is up and down movement. So everything was within 30. Whatever that calculation is, I'm an idiot with this stuff. So when you look at a little thing on the monitor, you know, it has I think 40 is the max. It was everything was in green. So everything as far as road force was okay. Everything balanced out. As far as the balancing of the wheels go, night and day difference between having beads in there. So I would not recommend putting beads in your bead weights in the tires to balance any of your tires. Horrendous experience, absolute waste of money. So where we're sitting right now is I still do have a vibration in the rear. I looked up something in regard to drive shaft. I'm like, well, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's the drive shaft that can cause an issue. And boom, what popped up? 2 months when they built these trucks, the Ram 1500, the brand new model year 2019, March and April of 2018 when they built the 2019 version, which I have, they had drive shaft issues from Dana. Or I guess a weld wasn't all the way around, or something like that. It was a weld, and it caused vibrations, and it can come off, and you know, if you got vibrations, it might blow off your truck, break, and cause a bunch of problems. So anyway, the 2 months that they had these issues, one of the months was the month mine was built. So I'm going to take that to the dealership and have them just look at it really quick and see if it's one of the drive shafts that had a problem. If not, I'm really unsure why there's like a constant feeling of a vibration in the rear. Everything's torqued well. I looked at everything. That was a really cool thing about Mount Zion Off-Road is they like everything they torqued or touched, they put a marker on. So you can go back and just see if the torque is off or whatever. So that was cool, but really happy with where we're at right now with the truck. Going forward, we got some lights from Baja Designs we still got to put on. I put the AFE air filter in. Definitely can feel everything you do to these trucks as far as performance with exhaust. What have I done so far? Exhaust and air intake. You notice on the top end. I don't really notice very much on the bottom end when it comes to the exhaust and the air intake. What I do notice is on the top end. Once it gets going, and you hit those top RPMs, like 100% you notice a difference. If you're just going to drive around town, you don't smash it, you don't get on the highway where you got to drive really fast sometimes in the ramps to get up to speed, make your merge. Merge. Don't expect people to move for you. Merge. Speed up, slow down, figure it out yourself. That's when you notice it, not around town. So, besides that, I put some step bars on the side. I'm not sure exactly how I'm feeling about those. The company had to send me a custom bracket because, for whatever reason, the early model year, again, 3 of 18 or whenever it was, they had a different mount than they did going forward until now. So, got them on. It does really kind of limit my height, though, so we'll see what's going on with that. We'll talk about it in a separate video. But yeah, that's everything I got as far as putting on the truck. Moving forward at the moment, we'll see. So, really happy with all this stuff. And again, if you're going to lift your truck in any sort of manner, swap out those struts and shocks, because they're not really made for the lift anyhow. So, if you got any questions or anything, let me know. Stay tuned for some more on the truck and driving around and stuff. What I'm going to do is I took a video of the truck driving down the one road where I got some video. I am going to remount the GoPro on there now that I got the springs and the shocks replaced, and try to match it up and show you a side-by-side comparison of what's going on now that the rear shocks and spring are replaced. But woo, it was a boat. That's how I described it. It was a boat with those front shocks, the front struts that were like 50,000 miles old, and then expanding everything 2 inches and expecting it to work. That thing was like a boat. Pontoon boat. So, until next time, later.